What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the BREWtally Speaking Podcast. I am one of your hosts, John, and with me, as always, is Daniel Terry. Welcome to this international episode of the BREWtally Speaking Podcast. How are you doing?
Going to Brazil. We're going to Brazil.
We're going to Brazil.
Give me that white and yellow and green flag.
I feel like Brazil's flag almost looks like Jamaica's flag.
I feel like it's the same flag.
Question marks?
We're probably wrong. We're not going to look it up. I mean, we're just not.
Anyway, this episode's guest is Theo Van Der Loo of EgoKillTalent. This episode was done a little bit ago when we still thought Sonic Temple was going to happen and concerts were going to be a thing you got to go to. As of when we're recording this, none of those things are happening. But you know what? That actually doesn't negate this interview. Despite some of the audio issues of calling someone from here in Michigan all the way to Brazil, which, you know, fuck you if you think you can make that phone call and not have any kind of connection issues. We have some, just so you know. But I don't think that negates the interview that we have, and I don't think that negates the fact that you probably don't know this band, but they're actually pretty fucking solid. And the crazier thing, they've actually played with a lot of fucking bands that you know and don't realize are as big of a deal. Just because they haven't made it here in the States. So I love doing some of these kind of interviews where we get to introduce you to new bands, no pun intended, new talent. And I don't know if this tag still applies, but I'm gonna wear it like a Facebook badge. I was told that this was one of the first U.S. interviews that this band has done, so I'm gonna go ahead and say this is one of the first U.S. interviews you're gonna hear of this band. So we're breaking new talent to you guys.
We absolutely are. One of my favorite things about this interview was kind of revealing the fact that just because a band's not huge in the U.S. doesn't mean they're not massively huge elsewhere.
I mean, how often? I mean, so I'm thinking of like a band like Gojira, or I'm thinking of like a band like, I mean, there's so many bands, honestly, that by the time we hear them here in the States, if they're not from here, you're like, oh, here's this new band. Like, Dan, how many times as a big metal fan have you imported a record of a band that you got into?
Soilwork.
I was going to say Soilwork, but I didn't want to necessarily just assume, but, you know, you find a band and you're like, oh, I fucking love this band, only to find out they've been around for fucking 12 or 15 years overseas before you ever heard of them here.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at Sepultura, you know.
Absolutely.
Prime example of that, Brazil's best kept secret for a while. And, you know, there's so many bands, like when we talk about how, like, Within Temptation is huge, just not in the U.S., you know, like, I mean, and that makes tons of sense. There's a reason why every single time a band is like, hey, we're going on tour, somebody's like, come to Brazil, because they don't know.
It's absolutely true, and EgoKillTalent is one of those bands that when you listen to them, you may not necessarily assume that we would be the ones talking about this band or breaking this band to you, but I think you're going to kind of find a lot of interesting subgenres that we do cover on this podcast that we are major fans of. Dan, you know, sometimes will joke that with some of the more underground bands that we cover on this podcast that, you know, it's more in his wheelhouse and I'm more of the mainstream guy, but I actually think EgoKillTalent is one of those bands that kind of appeals to Dan and I, both of our sensibilities of what we're looking for. They kind of have underground, interesting roots and subcultures of a lot of things. They kind of remind you a little bit of Chevelle. They have kind of more heavier, aggressive tendencies that you might find in some of the more aggressive bands we have on this podcast. They have more pop sensibilities than maybe we've had on this show, but I think, like the point of this interview initially, this is a perfect band for something like Sonic Temple. I know Sonic Temple's not happening. I know most of the Danny Wimmer festivals at this point aren't happening. But I think a band like EgoKillTalent, I mean, fuck it. There is a reason that bands like Queens of the Stone Age, Foo Fighters, Metallica, System of a Down are all taking this band out when they are touring overseas, because they have something that appeals to not only their demographic, but others as well. And so I think if you are not aware of who they are, you're doing yourself a great disservice of not finding one of those great international bands that you probably will start hearing within the next year or two here in the States.
I agree. And I think, like you said, John, in the interview, that they're the kind of band that when you go to a big festival and you're like, you kind of walk away with like, wow, that band that I saw was really, really, really great. I'd never heard anything by them before. I'm so glad I went here. Maybe you went to the festival to see a way bigger band, but, you're still there. So I think in that regard, a band like this could really, really, really shine. It's unfortunate with the circumstances that they were not able to attend because nobody is. But I think they're definitely a band that, as hard as it is to say and as cheesy as it is to say, oh, you should check them out, you really should.
Absolutely. It's definitely one of those things for me where, I love getting the opportunity to sometimes interview some of these lesser known bands. With some of the Furnace Fest preview episodes we've done, with Sonic Temple preview fest that we've done, it's one of those things where obviously we're big fans of music, live music and so forth, and is one of those things where I know that we're passionate about music and we want to bring people new, exciting music. And whether this is something necessarily in your wheelhouse, I do think there is something here for a lot of hard rock, metal fans, as, there's some kind of fun off-kilter time signature shit and, just interesting choruses and a lot of cool things that you're not hearing currently. And it's one of those things where I think this is a band that everyone should know about. And instead of just talking about why I think you should know about this band, let's just fucking get into the conversation with Theo of EgoKillTalent, and you'll know why you should be listening to this band. So we will talk to you afterwards. So I had the pleasure of talking to Theo, guitarist of the band EgoKillTalent, whose latest single is out now. That's kind of a fun little phrase to say. So I know this kind of sounds cliche to ask this question right out of the gate, but it seems like your band has kind of come out of nowhere to a lot of the fans here in the States and maybe abroad as well after the news of you getting the System of a Down and Metallica gigs had been announced. So for those maybe who aren't aware, the fact that you have a record out currently from a couple years ago, how would you describe EgoKillTalent and what is the best way to kind of describe your band?
Hey, wow, man, it's always so hard to describe your own music. I keep trying to, how am I going to put this in words? Because the way this band came to life was really because we wanted to express something. It was not like, sometimes I say that it was not like we were, okay, let's do a band because we want to be in a band. It could be a book. It could be like a painting. We were just like, let's say something about what we believe. The thing is, we are friends for so many years. I mean, I know some of the guys in the band for like 18 years. Almost 20 years. So we've been friends and we've been talking about life issues and thoughts and, we love philosophy. And so to talk about, that's how the name came up, by the way. But we were like, if there's something we love to talk about, let's make it like music about it, So that was how it starts. And my point is, by chance it is music and by chance it is rock, and it sounds as it sounds. It was just more like something that we felt like we should give life for. And that's how the band came together. But if I would try to go and put in like a category, I would say it's heavy rock and pop, in some way, because we love heavy bands. Gian played in Sepultura for 7 years. We are huge Metallica fans. We love heavy music, but at the same time, we love like the more of a rock stuff, like the Foo Fighters, Queens of the Stone Age, and we also love pop melodies like Phil Collins, Lenny Kravitz, and I think it's a mix of all that. In the end of the day, I think that's it.
Yeah, I would Definitely agree with that. It's actually kind of funny you bring up some of those influences.
Yeah.
And I know for me, like in the last couple of days, I've been doing a lot of chats with artists that maybe you wouldn't expect on a proverbial hardcore metal podcast. But, something that's interesting about at least the last full length that you put out is it feels familiar without feeling stale, if that makes any sense. There is some kind of vocal melodies
cool. Yeah.
that in hearing it kind of reminded me of Finch's second record, where it's kind of got this aggression to it, but the music doesn't necessarily add up to the vocal delivery. Like it's almost kind of off kilter a little bit and kind of makes it go, I wasn't expecting this riff or this vocal melody to kind of come over the music. And as such, it just, as you listen to the record, it just keeps you guessing what's coming next. Cause it's, like I said, it's familiar, but it's not. And I kind of thought that was really interesting
Yeah, that's, yes, actually sometimes even we go like in the first record, there's some songs that were like, shit, it feels like I've heard this melody before, and we were like trying to find out where, and there was like nowhere, and it just like something that, I don't know, it's weird, and the guitar riffs are something that we really dig working on. I mean, we have so many guitar riffs that we haven't used yet. Like we just recorded the last album, which we're gonna release in a couple months, and we already have riffs from before that album that were like, okay, we love these riffs. They didn't make to this album, but they will be in the next one. So guitar riffs are something that we really enjoy. I think the fact that we have a drummer who plays guitars, because I guess you know that we switch instruments. So the drummers, they play guitar and bass. And when a drummer thinks a guitar riff, they have like different tools rhythmically. They can think in the different ways, the rhythms. So I think it's also makes some contrast, when you go like a very pop melody that like you said, you go like, yes, that sounds something like a pop melody that I think with the pop the pop word, it takes you in this direction, it's something that your ears can hold it. But then you have guitar riffs that go time-wise and rhythm-wise, they go to different places. And that's something that we really love to do.
I was actually going to bring this up later on, but since you've already talked about it, do you feel that having everyone kind of be multi-instrumentalists and adding to the songwriting actually allows you to not feel or get stagnant in the creative process?
Absolutely. Totally. And it's like, because you have different, like I said, you have different approaches to the same instrument. So it feels like we have more colors to paint, that's how it feels. And also I've been in bands before. I've been in many bands before this one. And a different thing about this band is you don't have a feeling of ownership. It's like I can play whatever the music, the song asks for. I can, if asks for me the bass, I will be in the bass, and same thing with the drums. And it becomes much more about how it is sounding and how much it touches us than, okay, if I did this guitar riff, it must be in some part of the album. No, it's not like that. It's just like, I don't know, man, it's hard to explain. It's so organic.
Well, I think the thing that might be interesting too about that is that live, you don't kind of end up going through the motions of, well, this is my part on this song and this is how I always play it. Like, it kind of gives you the freedom to mix it up a little bit and have more fun in a live setting too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and also it keeps it fresh, because it's like, okay, you've been playing guitar in the first 3 songs, and then you do like 5 songs in a row in the bass, and then you feel the bass, and you enjoy playing the bass. And then when you go back to the guitar, different, like it's a different toy, and then you have fun with something else. So it really keeps the show fresh, and the effects, the pedals you use. I mean, it's just like, it's such a different universe, when you are playing the bass, and it's all about the low, and the heaviness of it. And then you go to the guitar, and it's, for me, it feels like more aggression, it's more, I know, it keeps it fresh, as I said.
So you guys are going to be, and where I'll see you is at this year's Sonic Temple Festival, and I know you're on a lot of the Danny Wimmer festivals this year. And, something that was interesting about last year's festival that I don't know if a lot of people paid attention to, but I thought was pretty interesting, was the fact that, you had a lot of international bands on this, with it taking over from the Rock on the Range name, one of the biggest festivals here in the States. You had bands like The Hives and Refused and Don Broco and a lot of bands, Hands Like Houses, that are from all over the country, all over the world, and basically put their different spin on rock, hardcore, metal, punk, whatever. And I thought it was a really great showcasing of that. And, this year is no different, with the bands like The Who and you guys. And I'm just kind of wondering, are you noticing that being a trend too, where a lot of these American festivals are looking outward beyond just the U.S. to showcase talents like yourselves?
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's everywhere, even here in Brazil. I mean, some Korean acts are coming down and I'm like, wow, I've never heard of them. And it's just, I think it's so rich because then you have access to I'm going to use the same metaphor that I just used, but you have access of different colors, because if you grow up in Korea or in Brazil or in the US, it's just like you grew up through some shades, that's how you see life. That's how you see through some lenses, that's how you learn that music should be done. And then when you start to go to different places and have contact with different artists that came from a different background, you learn some new colors, And yeah, I've been seeing this everywhere. I mean, Europe, it's known for being like this. We were toured Europe a couple times, and the band I had before, like 3 or 4 times. In Europe, it's more like that, But I feel like South America and the US, it's getting more and more open. And I mean, you named some great bands. We toured with Don Broco in Europe in 2017. And they are amazing live. It's amazing. It's very powerful. Yeah.
It's interesting to see, I'm gearing up for, and by the time this comes out, I'll probably have already done it and talked about it, because it's only an hour and a half past when I got the email, but I get to talk to Dennis from Refused next week. And that's a band that I never thought I'd get to see in the States because of them living, not here in the U.S. And as of next week, I think it'll have been the 4th or 5th time I've seen that band. And I seem to kind of have still a healthy respect for enjoying seeing international bands when they're here in the States, because I know it's really hard between getting visas all worked out and getting the financials straight, that sometimes we don't get the luxury of getting to see these bands. And, I think Sonic Temple especially is doing a really great job, and these festivals are doing a great job of doing what the European festival market has been doing, and a lot of the other foreign markets have been doing with their festivals, in trying to bring more diversity and bringing a wider range of things, because they realize that potentially us as concert goers and fans of music may not get the opportunity to see a band like yourself on a club tour, because it just financially may not be feasible for a while.
Yeah, totally. That's it. You said it all. I mean, it's just the visas process are so expensive to get in the States. Oh. And yeah. And it's especially because it's not like just a single person visa. It's a band visa. It's like an entity visa, right? So you have the crew, and it makes everything much more expensive. And there is also that. I mean, it's very hard. Some people don't understand that, but like your sound engineer and your roadies, they are part of it. They are part of putting this monster to life. I mean, the sound engineer guy that it's working with us, he's been with us since the first show, and he really understands the band live. And like the roadies, we have so many instrument changes. You have no idea, because we use, there is not one song that the 2 guitars are in the same tuning. Ugh. Not one. So yeah, man, it's a lot of different tunings and a lot of like changing instruments. So it's like, it's like this. I play the first song, the first couple songs with one guitar in one tune, right? And then I go to the bass and I play 2 songs in the bass with one. And then the third song, I still in the bass, but with another tune. So I need to change the bass. And then the 6th song, I go back to another tuning. It's another guitar. So it's like, it's so much, the roadies, they are part of the show. So you need to bring all those people, the whole crew to the US and pay for the flights and for having them there. And at the same time, if you don't do this, you won't break the market.
Right.
So it's a big puzzle. It really is a big puzzle. I mean, we need to thank BMG so much because they are believing in us so hard, and they are like helping us with tool support and marketing, and also C3 management and William Morris. If we wouldn't have them involved, we wouldn't be able to make this happen.
Well, kind of talking more, I guess maybe a little bit behind the scenes on stuff like that. I know a lot of bands, like, when they talk about going to Australia, they say, you know what, we're willing to just basically lose and break even for the experience of going to travel to Australia and some of these faraway places. It is interesting to hear, you guys, as this iteration of a band, have only been around, I think, 5 or 6 years, and it seems like, you've done a lot already, opening for some of the bands you mentioned, Queens of the Stone Age, Foo Fighters, getting these opportunities so early on in your career. Are you, when you get to play with some of these names and some of the, the System of a Down and Metallica shows that you're getting ready to do, are you getting to interact with these legacy bands, and are you kind of picking their brain about how they've been able to sustain a career as long as they have, and trying to apply those things to what you're doing currently?
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. We've toured with the Foo Fighters and Queens of the Stone Age. We did 5 stadiums with them here in Brazil. I think this was 2018, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, we did have a chance to hang out with Dave and the rest of the guys of both bands. And they were super nice to us. Definitely, I am a very curious guy. And I really like the business side of it. So I do ask all the questions, when was the album that changed your career, and money wise, when it makes it work, and to give you the answer, usually it's the third album. So that's the answer I keep getting. Usually it's the third album. You got to work so hard for the first 2, keep working hard for the third, and then some point around promoting the third album, then you go okay, now we're making some money. It is as it is. It's been like this since forever. I read so many books about the music industry, and all of them mention this 3 albums thing. Usually that's the time it takes to mature an artist, And also with Serge, the singer, I know them since before I have this band. And John Dolymon, he was actually the first person to see us playing as a band. He was spending vacations here in Brazil with me, and then I did a surprise for him. I was like, John, I'm driving you to the studio, and I'm gonna play for you because I have a band. And he was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, and I said, yeah, I have a band. And he said, if it's shit, I'm gonna tell right in your face. That's how John is. and I know. That's why I want to show you. So we entered the studio. We didn't even have a singer back then. So we entered there and we played 3 or 4 songs, just instrumentals. And then John turns and goes I think you have something real here. I think you guys can become a real big act. And that for us, that was a big push. John, it's a big, he had a big role in this band because of being so much, man, if you have a new band, right, and you have the drummer of System of a Down, one of the biggest rock bands in the world, headliner in any festival they play, and this guy turns to you and say, I think you guys have a diamond there. You just got to shape it. You have it. And then that was when we were we looked at each other after he left, and we was yeah, we should push this. We should work hard on this. And so with System, I talk with them constantly. I spoke actually with John a lot yesterday night about the shows we are doing together. Serge was so kind to post our video 3 or 4 days ago, and all his networks, so all his social media. So it's I think we are lucky in that sense, because we have some artists that are known and like what we are doing. But I would tell you, John, that I think the most important thing is to work hard, man. You got to work hard in your art, in your music. You just got to do the best you can. And one thing for me that works is that whenever we are writing a song, when I listen to it, if I don't feel the goosebumps, it's like it's not there yet. And this takes a lot of work. You got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And and we get advice from smart people. I do talk a lot with John from System, for instance, and with Serge, and I do take advice from them, like, what do you think we should do here? And they go like, yeah, I think you should do this and that. So most of the times we listen. John would say that we don't listen a lot of times, but we do listen most of the time.
He seems like in every press thing I've ever seen him do, which seemingly is getting more and more. So I'm hoping that potentially this show will get to a point where I could get him on and talk to him about a lot of the things that he's into. But it is interesting sometimes. I also watch a lot of documentaries on bands, the things that accompany CDs, the DVDs of the making of stuff, the behind the music stuff, the books that people put out, because I'm very fascinated by music because I love it so much, and I want to know more of the stories that make these artists who they are and these albums seminal like they are. And I sometimes don't feel like when some people get the opportunity, some of these younger bands, like actually a band you're going to be playing with here pretty soon is Greta Van Fleet, and they're from here in Michigan. I actually saw that band, probably 6-7 years ago, still as a local band, when the singer, because it's a band of brothers and the drummer is a friend, but basically when the oldest members in the band were, I don't even think they were in high school yet, or were just in high school. And to see the meteoric rise of what they've gone through, and then basically finding out that they've been hanging out and recording with the guy who's in, I think, the Bob Seger, or I'm sorry, he's in Kid Rock's band, but he has ties to like Bob Seger and, rich lineage acts that have been around for decades and just have put their touch on the music scene. And so it's one of those where it's like, I feel like Greta Van Fleet's success is because of their sound, and it appeals to an older demographic, but it's also because they're probably listening to the older people that are telling them, like, hey, if you still do these, or if you do this X, Y, and Z and put in the work, it will pay off. That I just sometimes don't feel like younger bands take the opportunity of gaining knowledge from their peers. Or
I totally agree with you, man. I totally agree with you. It's like, look, and this is about anything in life. It's sometimes not about what you think it is. And people are going to come to you and say, hey, it's not about what you're thinking. And if you defend your thoughts, because most of the people get so defensive protecting what they think, right? And what they believe. And if you do that, you are stuck with your limitations. And if someone comes to you and go like, hey man, I'm sorry, but I think you're missing the point here. And you are open, man, even if that person is wrong, you're going to learn. If you are open, but you got to be open to it, And that's why I remember when we signed with C3 Management, which it's a big company in the US. They run the Lollapaloozas, Austin City Limits, and they are super pros. And we have a manager called Tony Couch, and he works there. This guy's been in the industry for like 20 years, and I remember when we had the first time we spoke in person, I remember he was kind of going around to say no to me about something that I asked his opinion on. I mean, he was like touchy, like he didn't want to confront me. And then I was like, Tony, here's the thing. I have no problem hearing like a different opinion than mine. And I have no problem if the answer is no. And I have no problem if you want to tell me that you think what I'm thinking, it's bullshit. I have no problem. So just feel free to do it whenever you think it's the right call. And he was like, shit, man, I don't usually hear this from bands. And I was like, yeah, you're going to hear this a lot from us. I'd rather you put me in the right direction and we get where we want to get than to be in the wrong direction, just because I think that's the right one. But that's hard, man. I think it's a work in progress forever, for as long as you're alive, because we're just so used to protect our beliefs, as I said.
This might be kind of an odd question, but something I've kind of been thinking about as I was listening to a bunch of podcasts today, and some of them were talking about some kind of global issues and so forth, and, with the coronavirus being, all the news right now. But just kind of thinking about how, based on where you are, like, I was thinking about when bands find out, about you, like, this weird quick story real quick. So I remember when Gojira came out, and I first heard Gojira, and everyone was like, it's this French metal band with a Japanese name, but they're French, and they, are a metal band talking about the environment. And, that was the narrative I kept hearing. So sometimes it's not even about the music, it's about the story that comes before it. And, in thinking about you guys coming from Brazil and stuff like that, I've wondered, have you experienced, I don't want to say bias per se, but what are some of the things that when you talk to press or whatever from from foreign areas, what is something that you keep coming across where people keep asking you about from being where you are that kind of surprises you because you're like, it's not anything I would ever think of?
Oh, okay. Like missing the point, you mean? Like people make questions that are absolutely missing the point about Brazil, is that it?
Sure. Or yeah, just about like where you live. Because I mean, I was telling like someone that I was talking to a band from Brazil, and they're like, "Oh, like Sepultura and Max Cavalera," and I was like, no, but sure, I guess if that's your
yeah. And you know a crazy thing? That's interesting what you just mentioned because Sepultura, they're amazing, and we are very close to them. Actually, obviously, Jean played in the band for many years, and the band I used to have before, Andreas produced an album, so we know them quite well, and we really respect and love what they do. But they really put a lot of emphasis and put the spotlight on the rhythm parts of Brazil, the rhythm thing. So many, typical Brazilian rhythms. And we do have a bit of that too, especially in the new album. But there is one thing that's related to the tuning, the guitar tuning, actually, because there is in like if you go to the countryside in Brazil, like where really are how can I say still have I don't want to say jungle because we even when you have jungle you still have like cities around it, right? So in this area you have very traditional music, and they play acoustic guitar and with 10 strings. So they have 10 string acoustic guitars, and the tuning, it's a different tuning. It's not like a regular acoustic guitar tuning or a regular guitar tuning. And the guitar tuning that we use to do rock music, it's the same guitar tuning that this kind of music from the countryside of Brazil with 10 strings acoustic guitars, it's the same kind of tuning they use. It's like which is an open chord tuning.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think we bring something that is very different than what Sepultura brought, and people don't even know about this kind of stuff in Brazil. It's so typical, and I understand, but I also Brazil. It's crazy. Look at my name, man. My name is Theo Van Der Loo.
You sound like you should be from here.
Yeah, it's not Brazilian at all. I mean, my family is Dutch, and Jonathan the singer, his name is Jonathan. It's Jonathan Door. It's his German family. Brazil, it's such a mix. Rafael is a Portugal. He have a Portuguese passport, Portuguese family. I mean, Brazil, it's really a huge mix.
Is it because of the like? Sorry to cut you off, but I'm just wondering, is it because do you have like a military base that brings in a more of a melting pot of people coming from other areas?
Yeah, I think it is. It is very related to the Second War. Actually, okay. After the Second War, you have so many people coming from. Actually, I think even after the First War, you have so many people coming from Europe. So there is a city 2 hours from São Paulo that people speak Dutch there. They don't speak Portuguese. Yeah. And I think it's the biggest Japanese colony outside of Japan. It's in Brazil. So Brazil, it's a fucking mix. I mean, after the Second War, Brazil is the land of the promise. It was like people were like, okay, I'll go there and I'm going to be happy there. So you have like I said, there's no one in the band who is from like a really Brazilian origin, because the real Brazilian origin is Indians. It's tribal. So it's a mix of European backgrounds in Brazil, So it's a crazy thing because it feels like, now that I'm talking to you, it's just like I'm just realizing. I think maybe symbolic, it's crazy because Brazil, at some point in history, a lot of people from the world came to Brazil, from Asia, from Europe, came to Brazil. And it feels like we are kind of representing the coming back, the getting out of Brazil now. So, and after being mixed with the culture here. So it feels a little bit like that. But to answer your question more like objective, I never heard really weird questions in interviews. But when I was a kid and I used to go to Holland to visit my family there, because all my family from my father's side, still live in Holland. And I would get the most weird questions from other kids. Like sometimes even their parents, people would ask me if we have like crocodiles on the streets here. If we have, when your father is driving, do you need to stop the car so a big snake can cross the road, or a crocodile, or like a lion or something? I was like, man, we don't even have lions. So yeah, this kind of stuff.
Now, as a guitar player, you have me kind of intrigued with what you were saying about this 10-string guitar. I assumed with most 12-string guitars being in an open tuning, but how, if you're going from a 12 to a 10, I guess I can kind of understand that with maybe some of your higher strings being kind of an octave kind of thing. In thinking about your the guitar playing on the record, I don't think I really recall anything sounding like it was on a 7 or an 8 string. So how are you transposing the tuning from a 10 string to a 6?
Yeah, well, actually, it's more the relation in between the strings.
Okay.
Right. So basically, we have, let me count real quick here. We have 6 different tunings.
Okay.
And like I said, we don't have, actually now with the new album, we do have a couple songs that the 2 guitars are in the same tuning. But mostly we have even in different tuning. So I wouldn't even be able to tell you all the tunings we use, because some of them I don't use it.
Well, I figured it kind of sounded like at times it reminds me of like what the Deftones do. So like Chino is typically in C, and then Stefan with his 7 or 8 strings is somewhere in A or G sharp, I think. So at that point, it was making me wonder if you guys are kind of doing like that, where you have one guitar kind of at a lower register to kind of create more of that lower end, and then the other one is kind of filling the other side of it.
Yeah. Funny enough, it's not like that. Usually, we do have the same lower string. Okay. So we call the bass string, right? Usually, it's the same one, the same tuning, but the other ones are not. Especially the 3 highest ones. Okay. Because this way, sometimes, like let's say, I'm in a guitar with an open tuning, right? And by the way, not all of the tunings are open tuning, like open chord tuning. Right. But if I'm in a guitar that I am with there's one guitar, there is D, A, D, D, A, D. So we have 2 Ds right in the middle, right there.
Tremonti used that a lot on the last Creed record they did.
Oh yeah, I use that. Most of my guitars are tuning with the 2 strings in the middle of the same tuning. Yeah. Most of it, because it gives kind of a chorus vibe to it. Yep. Yeah, it's so I love it. And so, but if I have that, and I'm doing the most of the bass, let's say, like the bass guitar and the rhythm guitar. I mean, if I'm doing that, it's good if the other guitar have more options on the highest 3 strings to do some melodies or chords, to balance against mine. So we look so much at melodies and harmonies, especially because Jean, who is the drummer, he's amazing with harmonies. I mean, although he's a drummer, he knows so much about harmony. I mean, it's like sometimes I don't even bother. Sometimes he's in the drums. He's not playing guitar in the song. And I'm like, man, help me here, help me find the harmony. Where should I go next? I mean, I'm missing this or that. And then he picks the guitar, and in that sense, it's good to have 2 tunings on those higher strings, because you can sometimes you just can't do what I'm like listening in my head on the tuning I'm using. and then you can do it on the other one. It's just impossible. It's literally impossible. You can't open your fingers enough. So, and then you can do it in the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, that just kind of intrigued me, and I know I don't typically get into gear talk or things like that on the podcast too often, but as you were saying all that, I was like, okay, well, I'm just very intrigued by that, so maybe there is another guitar player listening that will listen to your music and then go, okay, well, what are they doing then? So
yeah, and man, and we feel so bad sometimes because we see videos of kids trying to play the guitar, the riffs, and they're like the regular tuning. And we're like, man, you will never make it like that. It's just impossible, So yeah.
Kind of in wrapping up, like these. I mean, I think you have a unique opportunity. You've already played festivals and stadiums with bands that maybe people aren't, and this sounds kind of like a backhanded compliment, and I don't mean it to be, but that you're playing with bands that they're the reason people are there to see them, not necessarily you. And I think that's kind of what some of these festivals you're going to be doing here in the States is going to be for you. Do you feel like those opportunities has better prepared you to come to a foreign market and basically share your music for the first time with people who may not be aware who you are?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. I've been talking about this in interviews before, but it's such a different feeling. I mean, here in Brazil, we can sold out some very nice venues and have like a lot of people, hundreds or thousands of people there to see us and singing all the songs. And that's a great feeling. It's a great feeling when, when you see, oh man, so much love. Like there's like thousands of people here to see me. It feels so good. But at the same time, when you are in a situation, as you just said, right, another country, and you just got to prove yourself to these people there because they don't know you and they don't know your song, it also pushes you to the edge of what you can deliver. And that feeling, it's also amazing. Like, because we are really a band, man. We are a group. It's not... And when we are on stage and I see my buddies there giving their fucking souls on stage, it feeds you. And you're like, I won't let my friends down. And we're gonna fucking conquer this audience here. And in the end of the day, it's always about us having a good time on stage, the five of us. And like I think the moments that I get more emotional on stage is when I'm playing guitar and Jonathan comes and hugs me without me expecting, right? And it feels like, fuck, it's my fucking buddy from 15 years here with me. And and we are playing like Sonic Temple or Rock and Ring in Germany. That feeling of accomplishing that, just being like in Brixton Academy stage. We toured Europe with In Temptation, and they are fucking huge there. We did the biggest arenas, 18 or 20 shows. The situation that you just described, right? I mean, most of the people were there to see, like 99% of people are there to see them. It's funny, man, because we've never been in a show that at least there wasn't some people singing the lyrics, which is fucking crazy. Like the first time we toured Europe, there were people there singing our lyrics. And this is, I think, it's very much because of the DSPs, Spotify and iTunes and Apple Music and all that, but it's great too. But what I was saying is that, so we are touring with In Temptation, and people are really there to see them. But then when you realize I'm fucking in Brixton Academy or Heineken Music Hall in Amsterdam, and I'm with my friends here having a blast, we're having an amazing time, and we're fucking delivering it. That feeling, it's also amazing. So I think depending on how you look, it can be always awesome. Even when people don't know you.
I'm very much, you guys are, I hate to say it like this, but I like when we do our Sonic Temple preview stuff, I like kind of showcasing some of the bands that people probably don't know, because I think those are usually the ones, when you go to a festival like this, those are the ones that you walk away going, I'm really glad I went to this festival and I caught this band because I didn't know anything about them and I was really impressed by this band. And to be completely honest, I didn't know anything about you until basically Amy was like, hey, I got this band, I think you should do one of the first interviews they've done in the States. And I think, you will like this band. And like I said, it reminds me of a lot of different things I do like while still sounding fresh and unique. And now I understand probably a lot of that is your weird tunings that, are home to you. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing your set this year at Sonic Temple, and hopefully we'll be able to meet in person and even if it's not on microphone, to at least have some conversations and maybe have I don't know if you drink at all, but have a beverage of some sort.
I do.
So
let's do it. And if we have a guitar nearby, we can explain you more about the tune. Craziness.
I would love to see that, because I probably would be one of those people who's trying to be like, I can't do the hang 10 thing with because that's the only way to stretch my fingers to get this note this chord for fretted. Lastly, where can people find you guys online, you yourself and the band online? And obviously a lot of touring seems to be in store, and a new record in store for 2020, it sounds like.
Yes. Well, you can find our music in all the DSPs. We are on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, YouTube. If you are on Instagram, we are there. It's just EgoKillTalent. Facebook, same thing, just EgoKillTalent. And if you go to EgoKillTalent.com, you have all the links there. And yeah, that's it. And we are looking forward to release the new album. We recorded at 606, the Foo Fighters studio. We were there. Yeah, we were there for like a month and a half.
How'd you like that Neve console?
Oh, fuck, man. You should see the amount of guitars and amplifiers they have. It's like mind-blowing.
Don't they call that place the Compound, actually, because of that?
Yeah, they do. And it's crazy because they allowed us to use it. So basically, I would say 98% of the gear that were there, we were allowed to use. There was only a couple guitars that were like collective items that they have that I don't even want to touch it. But we used a lot of what they use to record and live, and that was amazing. We used the drum snare from Queen, which is fucking amazing. It's like crazy. Yeah, really cool. It was amazing. Well, anyway, so the album is going to be out on May. And we're going to release another single before the album is out. And yeah, it's exciting.
Out of curiosity, who produced it?
Steve Avitz.
Oh, he's been on the podcast. He's great.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so you know Steve.
Yes.
Yeah, man, it's like he's a wizard.
Oh, God. He's so good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, thank you very much for your time. And like I said, looking forward to seeing you guys in a couple of months in Columbus.
Thank you, man. Likewise.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang there.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening. Or, your evening.
Yeah, it's still evening here. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
So that was my conversation with Theo Van Der Loo of EgoKillTalent. I'm sorry they're, not touring and they're not coming to the U.S., so...
Well, you should check them out.
Yeah, but there's no reason why you can't check them out, because now you have time to listen to their music and to find out why I think they're one of the next big rock bands to come from overseas that's going to break over here in the U.S. I feel like EgoKillTalent can kind of fit into that same realm where it's like, I know this isn't a hard rock metal band per se that we usually talk about, but I think if you're into like Chevelle, if you're into Deftones, if you're into, there's so many influences that I feel like people who like a wide array of rock and metal, I think there's something in EgoKillTalent that will appeal to everybody. And I'm so sad to know that they're not playing here in the States now. I mean, like I said, they were fucking coming with Metallica. What more do you need to know? Like, you cannot like Metallica's new music, but Metallica brings fucking banger-ass bands to come out with them. I mean, this was fun. I know we kind of get a little gear heavy and kind of guitar heavy toward the end of our interview talking about, like, tunings, but I think that's interesting, too, and I think that's what adds to their unique sound is the fact that they're able to play in weird, interesting tunings that people aren't playing in, and that makes their music sound fresh. And I just don't know. In the day and age, where we constantly talk about, well, this just sounds like a rehashing of so-and-so or whatever. It's interesting to see bands approach something from a completely different perspective than what we've been seeing.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of unique in the sense that, like you said earlier, that they kind of can appeal to fans of harder music, or rather underground music. I won't say harder, but also people that are into more mainstream rock. And, to your point about, coming over with Metallica, I mean, worked out really well for Gojira, didn't it?
It's weird because at that point, Gojira was like a solid, 10 years into their career?
Yeah.
But like that was the tour with them and Lamb of God. That was the tour that like pseudo broke Gojira here in the States.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And it's weird because, I mean, I had, like, in my circles, like, a band like Gojira was already, like, massively influential, but, like, now I can, like, go to, as of, like, 90 days ago, I could go to a gas station and there might be, like, a dude there with the Gojira shirt on, you know? Like, and that was not common at the time, you know?
Right. No, it's one of those things where, I mean, I don't think you can underestimate the value of the bands that were taking them out, you know, like a Foo Fighters, like legitimately an arena-sized band, Queens of the Stone Age, one of the bigger, you know, underground desert rock, stoner rock, just rock bands, and is one of those things where it's like, I just feel like, you know, putting that stamp of approval on this band means so much between all the bands that have kind of gone to bat for them, and I feel like it's just a matter of time before here in the States where they're their next big band, and I don't know if they ever will be, but I believe in what they're doing. I think they, like I said, I have said, I think there's something there for a lot of people, and is one of those things where I hope once all of this shit, the coronavirus, the COVID-19 shit clears up, we're going to start getting our festivals back. We're going to start getting our club and arena, any touring back, so I can start seeing shows. The biggest thing that has pissed me off about all this is I can't see anybody.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. I mean, there's been a few bands that have done like the live stream thing, but like not enough.
I mean, it's kind of hard to do that, I think, for a lot of people.
I mean, you still need like a whole team, and if that team's more than 10, then it's like illegal, right?
Yeah, technically.
I just gotta say, I've been to a lot of gas stations because, as everyone knows, that's where I get my beer. You know, and there's definitely more than 10 people at those gas stations, but you know, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, either way. Let's wrap this episode up, as we always do, by plugging the band and the member of the band we talked to. If you would like to keep up with EgoKillTalent, simple enough. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, EgoKillTalent. If you would like to find them on their website, EgoKillTalent.com. There's a theme there, whether you want to realize it or not. If you'd like to keep up with Theo himself, you can find him on Instagram and Twitter at Theo Van Der Loo. Look in the show notes, motherfuckers, and you will see how to spell that, because I assume you're not from here in the Midwest where you're going to see a whole lot of names like that, even though it's a Brazilian name, but as you heard, it's not. All that aside, if you would like to keep up with Dan, he's going to tell you where he can be found very easily on the internet.
Well, I can be found on Twitter at DiscussMetalDan. I can be found on Facebook under Daniel Terry. I can be found on Gmail at DiscussMetalDan@gmail.com. You can find my other podcast, Dyslopography Discussion, at DiscussMetal.com.
And if you would like to keep up with all things this podcast, you can find us simply enough at BrewSpeakPod, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. If you would like to keep up with us on YouTube, everything is over on there as well. There are some videos if you are more of a voyeuristic type person and like to watch. If you would like to support us non-monetarily, you can do such by leaving a rating, reviewing, subscribing to this podcast on whatever podcast app you are listening to this on. If you would like to support us monetarily, you can head over to patreon.com/BrewSpeakPod. You can email us at BREWtallyspeaking@gmail.com. Get you one of these fucking pins that has been sitting on my PlayStation 4 for the last handful of months. We are doing a blowout sale. $10 gets you one shipped anywhere in the U.S. I know you're not getting any mail right now because of this COVID-19 bullshit. So let me send you something really cool. I promise it will not have anything on it. They are all individually wrapped, so they were pre-COVID-19 things wrapped, and so you won't get anything from me. You could do that. That would greatly support us. I would say it's going to go support Dan going to Furnace Fest. I don't even know if that's going to fucking happen now.
I don't want to talk about it.
So if you would like one of those, support us, let us know. If you would like to support our sponsors, Let's start with thebeanbastard.com. Go over there to get some delicious coffee. They are a local independent Buffalo, New York company that makes their own coffee. Support them if you are able to. On Point Pomade. Again, I don't know what you're doing. If you are an essential employee, well, fuck it. You need to look good while you're going out so people don't think you got COVID-19. And if you're at home and you can't work, well, then you need to look presentable to whomever you may see, FaceTiming or whatever. Like, that's something I've been doing. So look presentable, unlike me. Keep your beard and hair looking on point. Go to onpointpomade.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, onpointpomade. Use the code BSP15 and get 15% off your total order. And lastly but not leastly, go over to rockabilly.com. They have over 500,000 bands and items in their online store. If you are a fan of anything on this podcast or related to this podcast, I guarantee there's something that you will appreciate and love and want. So if you're able to support Rockabilly, head on over to rockabilly.com. You can guarantee that everything is great in quality. It's not going to be like some bootleg knockoff bullshit that you're going to find on eBay and like all these other places where you get bootleg stuff from. They support the bands. They pay back the bands for the licensing for the items. So it's a win-win-win for everybody. You get sweet swag. Bands get a little bit of money, which they could definitely use in this time period. And don't forget to use our code BREW15 and save 15% off your total purchase. Go to rockabilly.com. So support our sponsors for supporting us. We appreciate them. We appreciate all of you for listening. And for the BREWtally Speaking Podcast, I am John.
And I am Dan.
We'll talk to you all next week.
Oh, that fucking sucked. Oh, that fucking sucked. Shao Kahn, what'd you think?
That was pathetic.
Yeah. Yeah. Coach, what'd you think?
Fucking embarrassing!
Okay. Okay. I mean, I knew it was gonna fucking suck, but I think those guys were a little rude. Austin Powers?
How about new?
Okay. I thought we were going to get the Austin Powers vote. We did not. John, use that for your podcast. It fucking sucks. But you knew what you were getting into. It's your own fault. It will result in less listens. You're going to see a decline in listeners if you start the show with that. You're going to see 30 seconds in, the number will plummet. And I will be there at the bottom of the plummet saying, I fucking told you. Don't use this fucking riff. It sucks. But it's yours.